Today on DrWhitty Today, we're bringing in a scientific heavyweight. Mr. Mark Brezzell is a highly specialized clinical expert and Johns Hopkins trained cardiovascular perfusionist. He holds the distinction of being the first African American to graduate from their prestigious perfusion sciences program. His background includes work as a genetic toxicology researcher at the University of Michigan, national scientific speaking engagements, and he now serves as an executive medical science liaison for Terumo Medical. But beyond the credentials, this leader is a mission-driven educator. He's mentored students, preached health in our communities, and even wrote a book about his own fight with diabetes. His passion? Helping us live longer, stronger, and smarter through real evidence-based health principles. Listeners and viewers, we're talking heart disease, stress, and the truth Black men need to hear to protect their lives and their legacy. And now, help me welcome today's hosts, Mr. Mark Brezzell and Dr. Whitty. All right, welcome. Good day, everybody out on the platform tonight. We got an awesome show lined up for you. So before we jump into it, go ahead and grab something to drink, maybe some chips or a snack, because we don't want you to miss anything that we're going to talk about in this episode. So without further ado, family, welcome back to DrWhitty Today, where we don't just talk, we transform. And today's conversation is not only personal, but it's urgent. It's life or death for Black men everywhere. I'm joined by the brilliant and unapologetically honest Mr. Mark Brezzell, a physician who has spent his entire career studying the heart, not just the organ, but the pressure, the pain, the silent battles that Black men carry in our bodies every single day. So we're diving into diabetes, heart disease, the vascular impact of chronic stress, the truth about what happens when a Black man lives in survival mode for very too long. So this is not fear mongering, it's empowerment, it's education, it's liberation. So if you're a Black man, if you love a Black man, if you are the heartbeat of your family, this episode is definitely for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, sir, welcome to the platform. And I want to just go ahead and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from and how you came about to be on the show.
All right. Appreciate it. Again, just kind of a little bit of background. I am a clinically trained as a clinical cardiovascular perfusionist, which is a very specialized clinical specialist. We are part of the open heart surgical teams. If there's any hospital that has a heart program, if they have a heart surgeon, they have a heart, cardiac anesthesiologist, there will be a cardiovascular perfusionist as part of their team. As was shared earlier, I graduated from Johns Hopkins and many moons ago. I spent 10 years in surgery. Among other things, at Toledo Hospital in Toledo, Ohio, transitioned into industry, where I worked with about 23 years across medical affairs departments of various companies. In my last company that was mentioned, Terumo Medical, which I'm no longer there, I have transitioned and started my own wellness platform. Hence why we're here today. My focus is educating our people on cardiovascular health, medicine, the vascular impact of stress. I reside in outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan. So I'm a Michigander. It gets cold here in the winter, but it's not too bad. Weather's now finally transitioning, so that's a good thing. But I enjoy what I do. I'm passionate about what I do, and I feel that what we do is critically important to educate our people on the various risks that are out there.
All right, thank you very much. Now I know that we'll discuss some of it, but I just want to let everybody know that Mr. Brezzell has a book out. It's called A Matter of the Heart: My Unexpected Journey with Diabetes. We're going to be talking a little bit about that. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. We'll be talking a little bit about this book, and then at the end of the program, we'll definitely let everybody know how you can get a copy of it. So I just wanted to put that out there. Awesome book, by the way.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right. So, like I said at the pre-show, I've been waiting for this one. So this is very personal to me in several different ways, being that I have lots of family members that are affected by diabetes, just as well as I'm a fairly new person that was diagnosed with diabetes. So
Oh, wow.
this one is a matter of the heart for me.
There you go. That's right.
All right. So we are going to get right into it. We have some questions that we're going to ask, and we're going to allow Mr. Brezzell to speak on those topics. We will be taking a short break, and we'll air a couple of commercials, but we'll come right back. We'll also have an opportunity to allow someone that may be out there listening that is watching the show. If you have a question for Mr. Brezzell or myself, or you have a comment on tonight's show, we'll be dropping the link in the chat a little bit later. And we want you to come up on the platform and ask your question or make your comment. But we just ask that you be ready so that we can make sure that we stay within the time frame of our show. So without further ado, we're going to pop that question. It is, so when you look at the data on heart disease in Black men, what statistic hits you the hardest, and why aren't we talking about it enough as our community?
I think the one that stands out the most to me is that approximately 60% of Black men 20 years or older is dealing with some level of cardiovascular disease, whether it's hypertension, whether stroke, whether coronary artery disease, whether heart failure, some component of vascular injury. And that's, to me, staggering. When you're talking about that level, percentage wise, that's incredible. That's something that we should be shouting from the mountaintops. And then roughly around 58% of Black men are running high blood pressure. So I think those two things stand out the most to me, and I don't see enough discussion and advocacy and around that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I think I want to try to get the word out there that we can do better. There are things that we can do to mitigate this, and these numbers are staggering, and yet to really be fully embraced and addressed in that level.
All right, thank you. Now, what was the age that you mentioned when you first started?
20 years and above.
20 years and above. And so, yeah, that 20 years is definitely early.
Yes.
A lot of times people in that particular age range, they don't worry about things like this, and they
yes,
in a lot of ways feel that they don't have to worry about it.
That's right. Many instances, and that's the challenge. We're seeing manifestation of disease younger and younger in many, across many demographics, even within our community. Like the unfortunate death of one of our actors, who was in that movie, who he dealt with was it cervical, not what kind of cancer? He had cancer. But
Chad.
Yes.
Chad Boseman.
That's right, Chad Boseman. That's right. Yeah. And and you think, should I even be tested? Is that a big deal? I mean, this guy, now they're pushing it, pushing it back to 50, which probably needs to go back to, into almost in the 40s. But I'm just saying, presentation, is much younger. I remember when I left the hospital after my 10 years there, it was really rare to see patients in their 40s and 50s being, undergoing surgery. But by the time I left there, after 10 years, that number, it was staggering. It went from one every 6 months, or, even maybe in 3 months, to, now you're talking a couple of times, a month, to even a few times a week. when you're having patients coming in with multi-vessel disease, getting surgery, in their 38, 41, 50. I mean, it just, to me, just amazing. And there's reasons for that.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next question. How does chronic stress literally change the vascular system of a Black man who's been in survival mode his entire life?
Well, chronic stress, and a lot of times, people say, well, that this is a state of mind, but it's actually a physiologic effect. Your body, when your body undergoes, a stress, it releases basically various biochemicals. Cortisol, there's epinephrine, various factors that are released to put your body into what they call a fight or flight syndrome. So basically, these particular chemicals heighten your body's senses to the point where the evasive action is imminent, is necessary. So these help you to, now put you in that excitable state of evasion. You're either going to fight, or you're going to run. But the bottom line is that when you, are dealing with a lot of stress, these particular, chemicals are present in your system, and that over a prolonged period of time, if they're not ratcheted down, that's where a lot of problems will be manifested as a result of this. So that's really what's going on internally. Your entire vasculature is impacted by chronic stress. You basically have increases inflammation, increases your blood pressure, and all these things. It stiffens your blood vessels over time, and all these things will have profound impact on health and manifest itself in various types of diseases and conditions.
All right, thank you. You spoke about inflammation, and inflammation is a real thing.
Yes, it
that
is.
a lot of us don't pay attention to, and there's so many different foods that we eat on a daily basis that contributes to inflammation, and
Yes.
we aren't even aware of it. So
Right.
I think for everybody that is listening and not listening, one of the things is to do our research and to find out what are the
Right.
foods that are contributing to this
Mhm.
inflammation, and what are the foods that we can eat that actually help reduce inflammation, so that we're not always being on different medications and things like that.
That's right. And when, just in response to that, I think, and maybe, we can discuss that later during an interview, but I know when you talked about foods that really elicit a lot of inflammation, that's really highly processed foods. And I think that's where, we as African Americans, we eat a fair amount of highly processed foods. And there's reasons again for that, based on our lifestyle changes and that sort of thing. But if you can reduce consumption of that, that will go a long way in helping you to help to alleviate and reduce inflammation.
All right, thanks. Next up, what are the early warning signs Black men ignore because we think it's just stress or just being tired?
I think that's the early one is chronic fatigue. A lot of times, we attribute it that way. I'm not getting enough rest, which is another sign, another issue. Not getting enough rest. But I think the biggest one, you get headaches. You have, like I say, you have changes in your sleep patterns. You don't sleep. You have to basically sustain yourself on stimulants or some sort of, coffee or tea or some of these, the sports drinks that are out there, or, so basically you're using these to kind of keep your body in an excitable state, but that is causing damage. And if you don't scale it back, many of the manifestations that we discussed will be manifested and definitely potentiated. So you definitely, and a lot of times for us, we feel that we have to keep pushing, but with everything there's limits. And so I always attribute it to like a car. You can't, if you don't take care of that car. We take better care of our automobiles than we do ourselves. And we go through all of the checks and the balances. You change the oil at a specified time. You put in the proper gas, and but yet when it comes to us, we just think that we can just push with no recourse.
Yeah, we do, and that's further. That's as they say, furthest from the truth, right? Because everybody
Absolutely.
needs, and that's
Absolutely.
something that I would say that I'm dealing with right now. And I get constant reminders, slow down, make sure that you rest. What have you done today to take care of yourself?
Right.
Because like you said, typically we have the type of lifestyle that we are trying to manage our time as best as we can. A lot of people say that they're trying to find time to do things. And I always say, well, I haven't found time yet. So you're going to have to make time
That's right.
to do
Absolutely.
the things that you need to do, just like you make time to do the things that you want to do.
That's right.
So
That's right.
getting rest definitely should be number one on the totem pole, because as you said, if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not going to be around to be able to take care of anybody else.
That's right. And rest is so critically important, because that is where the body, that's the refresh, that's the restart, that's the repair. So basically all the things, sometimes, like you said before, we put ourselves through the ringer during the day, 12-hour days, and not eating, but it's when you're at rest where your body heals itself, where body repairs many of the damage that we put, that's manifested. So, but if you don't get enough rest, then now you're starting the next day with not being fully recharged and so you can see how that down the road will continue to lead to eventually a critical mass, and something is going to break. So it's very important.
Exactly. All right. So next we have, can you break down the connection between racism related stress and actual physical damage to the heart and blood vessels?
Well, they're very related. They're totally related. It's just it's a simple cause and effect. If you have prolonged stress from any source, that can cause problems within your vasculature, along with your nerves and other parts of your body. But for racism, that in and of itself institutionally creates a higher level of stress, just because of the disproportionate challenges that we're dealing with, and discrimination, or things that happen on your jobs, things that happen just driving. Sometimes driving while Black in and of itself can have issues, because if you see a police come up behind you, or if you get pulled over, now the question begins, okay, what's going on? And we're in that survival mode, as you mentioned earlier. And all of that does is creates a heightened sense of animosity, anxiety, and which generates our stress, which increases our stress level. And with that, again, many of these things that we discussed are manifesting. So I think that they're very relatable. They're very directly related. And if we don't do things to mitigate that, that's going to create major problems down the road.
Exactly. Wow. DWB, driving while Black.
That's right.
Isn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Isn't it interesting that that type of anxiety can be placed on us as a people? And I even think about how now, like when I go out, if I go to the movie theater, where a long time ago when I would go to the movie theater, it would be like, rest and relaxation. You can let your hair down.
That's right.
Whatever you want to call it. But
Right.
Nowadays, when you go to a movie theater, in the back of your mind, you're like, where are the exits? Is anybody going to come in here? Just because of all the different acts of terror that have taken place over the years.
Right.
And so that's stressful as well, because you find yourself not being able to actually enjoy
Right.
whatever the thing is that you're trying to enjoy, because you're too
Absolutely.
busy, rehearsing in your head
Yeah.
what you're going to do if something pops off, as we like
Yeah.
to say. So,
You're
but
looking around.
unfortunately, unfortunately, that's the time we live in now. We
Yeah.
we have to be uh, ready and just very, very vigilant,
Yeah.
like never before. So,
Absolutely.
all right.
Yeah.
So, what's one thing Black men do every day that silently increases our cardiovascular risk without us even realizing it?
I think the biggest thing is carrying our stress without a release. I think when we harbor, many times, we deal with this every day, and many of the things you just mentioned, just this love. But when we don't release it, when we don't discharge it, that is a big thing. And again, it's really hard to no. There's no resting. There's no letdown. Like you were saying, is when you're in a situation where you're looking around, or you just can't fully relax yourself. That, and again, that just kind of compounds the challenge that we're talking about here with stress. And I think that when we continue to, it's really kind of a challenge for us, but at the same time, there's so many things that we can do. But a lot of times I think that dealing with the stress is one thing, but then when we start seeing problems or manifestation of the stress in ourselves, another problem we have is not getting it checked out. It's not really, we don't like to go to the doctor. We push through it and push it. Some things, it requires intervention. Some things require you to do something about it. Some things just aren't going to go away on its own. And I think that this is one of the problems in this particular situation for us, is that many times we normalize this thing. Well, I never get any sleep. I'm always tired. I always have headaches. But I'm just pushing through. Well, pushing through sometimes is not a good thing. You got to back it up.
Exactly. And that's something that, I would say that I have found out and am finding out, is sometimes you just got to take that time, no matter what it is that you have on your plate, on your schedule, whatever it is that you might have planned. Sometimes you just have to take a look and say, you know what, I have to make some time for me, take some time for me, so that I can be in a better state tomorrow when I have to go back to work,
Right.
or next week when I have a certain task that I need to be very vigilant for, to be able to get through that task without too much anxiety.
Right.
So yeah, it takes a bit of awareness and just willingness to even recognize that you are experiencing such things.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So, how do cultural expectations such as being strong, being silent, men don't cry, man up, boss up, or the man being expected to be the provider and being the man, uh, how does that contribute to heart disease in our community?
Well, I kind of put it this way: this cultural script rewards endurance, but the biology still doesn't change, and it still is impacted. The fact of the matter is that when we push ourselves beyond the capabilities of what our systems can handle, we're the ones that are suffering the consequence. And so many times, like you said before, when you put yourself in a position where you don't allow outlets, I think one of the worst. I don't know where it even came from. I don't know the etiology of it, but one of the worst things you can tell people, is particularly young boys, you can tell them, teach them, they have to learn outlets. That's why there's so much violence. That's why there's so much anger. That's so much, such a fear. When you hold things in, you can only hold it in for so long before it demands coming out. And sometimes it will come out. So it'll either come out, as an act of violence. It will come out as a mental break. It'll come out as, like you said, just as over time, as your system starts to break down and you start dealing with strokes and myocardial infarctions and that sort of, these types of heart attacks and challenges within your body. Some people, you get ulcers, I mean, there's little things that you could tell that your body is not, is enduring a great deal of stress and impact. But the name of the game is good. It's nothing wrong with crying. That's a release. There's nothing wrong with even if you feel like you're getting sick, go get checked out. Don't sit on it. Don't ignore it, because you're hurting you. And the challenge with that is you're the only one that know you the best. No doctor, no nurse, no therapist. Nobody knows you better than you. And if you ignore symptoms, you're only hurting you. And you have too much to live to be subjected to, basically self-destructing because you choose not to find an outlet or seek help in any situation that you may be dealing with. We have to let that stuff go.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that. We are the experts of our own lives, and we should know what's going on better than a therapist or a doctor, in some sort of way to make sure that we're communicating what's going on with us. I think it's interesting that the way our body communicates to let us know what's going on is, to send us pain signals, whether it's a small pain signal leading up to what we would feel like is severe or catastrophic pain. But I think it's interesting that just like many of us ignore the people that are communicating to us on a daily basis, we ignore the signs and symptoms. We ignore the cries. We ignore the little pains that we feel, and then we don't act on it until it becomes something severe or something that we can no longer manipulate or control. It has to be dealt with by a professional or through medicine. And so I think we as a community have to do better at hearing and listening to what our bodies and our brains are communicating to us, and just exercise a little bit more self-awareness and actually learn about these different diseases and different things that may run in our family, or even if it's just because you want to be educated if you should encounter such things. I find that we do better at dealing with them when we have some sort of knowledge and awareness of it, be it through ourselves or because maybe we had to help a family member, or we had a friend who went through the same thing. So I think it's just incumbent upon us to get ourselves educated and learn more about these things that we could come up against or face during our lifetime.
It's interesting. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I didn't share that at the very beginning, and I've been a diabetic now for 26 years and going on 27 years. And it was one of those deals where it caught me completely by surprise. The symptoms are pretty classical, but everybody is different. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for people that's listening, that there are just distinct symptoms that are manifested for people, if you're having even pre-diabetes or if you're diabetic, certain things to look for. And we can discuss that in a little bit more detail as we go along in this discussion.
All right. Thanks. All right. Next up. What are the top 3 lifestyle changes Black men can make today to get the biggest return on investment for heart health?
I think when you're talking about cardiovascular, I think the biggest, first of all, is getting your numbers checked. Just go, do you get a physical? Even a yearly physical. I mean, you don't have to sit in the doctor's office every other week, but find out where you are, where you stand. So I would say first things, get your numbers checked. Make sure you're not at risk for pre-diabetes, or you may be diabetic and not know it. Get your blood pressure checked. Make sure that your pressure is not running high or elevated. And there's get, are you within limits weight wise? I mean, trying to, maintain, a good weight, and trying to just, I think the second thing would be movement. That's probably the biggest one. We're a very sedentary society. Everything is, it's so easy for us to, just press a button and for things to happen. But we have to really get out there and move. Movement is I think the most comprehensive exercise regimen anybody can do is walk. Just a simple walk. A lot of people say, well, I don't have time to exercise. I don't have, I can't go to a health club, and, you don't have to, just walk around your house, walk up the steps if you have steps, or go out and walk around the neighborhood, or if you're at work, on your break or your lunch break, go walk in the parking lot or walk around the building. Or the fact that the movement is critically important in helping you to maintain and manage. And then I think the last one would probably be, just try to reduce your stress. The best way to do that, again, movement is probably a big one. Sometimes it might be just in getting rid of, the stressors. If you're dealing with it, in a very stressful situation, sometimes just reducing that, the exposure to that, it can be, and if you can't do that, then I would say go back to number 2, which is movement and exercise. That would be, and then watching what you eat as well. Your diet is, but diet and exercise is critically important in helping to balance all of these things. Because even for me as a diabetic, movement is critical because it helps to, increase insulin, sensitivity, and so your body absorbs the insulin much better and reduces insulin resistance. So that means that you're able to control your sugars much better. Just from, a short walk, within 10 minutes, you automatically will start seeing the sugar starting to come down. If you have like a glucose monitor or something like that. But a walking is, I recommend it for anybody, and I encourage you. You could do it at any size, at any age, at any stage of your life. It's something that will improve and provide longevity for you.
Thank you. I think when you talk about walking, that's definitely true, because my grandfather, one of the things I noticed about him ever since I was a young kid, I noticed that he would come home from work, and he would, at periods of the day, he would just take off and go for a walk. He would just walk anywhere, and you'd say, "Grandpop, where are you going?" "I'm just going for a walk." And he would go for a walk. Even I can remember when he was older, and I was in the military, my grandparents came to visit me, and at this particular time, he had a little bit of forgetting, and a little bit of dementia, but he still went on that walk. And so he would just say, "I'm going for a walk." So I had to put a card in his wallet in case, something happened and he couldn't remember. But he would go for those walks. And that was a regimen he did ever since I knew him. And so he lived to be 93. So that was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, in reference to your comment earlier, when you said that people should get their numbers checked, for those that may not know what you mean by saying that, can you just elaborate on getting your numbers checked and making sure that you understand what that means?
Okay, when I say numbers, the first thing, obviously, the numbers goes back to what I say was one of our biggest problems as a group of people, is blood pressure. Hypertension is this, we call it the silent killer. Why? Because it can damage the vessels, and damaged vessels eventually can wear out and cause issues, and that's where a lot of the conditions are a result of, is when your vessels start to break down from extended high pressure situations. And so go to the doctor, or go you can go to Costco or Sam's. Sometimes over in the pharmacy section, if you don't have a way of measuring your blood pressure, go to the clinic. go to the store, and they have these where you can pay, and they can you can do your. But just make sure you know that your pressure is within normal ranges. That you're not walking around with pressures that are elevated. 120 over 80 is the average. And then if your pressures at 130, more so 140, 150, 160, 170, that's high blood pressure, and you need to get that get that checked and looked at. Now, another number that you want to be aware of is for diabetes. Is a test called hemoglobin A1C, and basically what that is that's just a blood test that they can do to determine what has your sugars been running over a 3-month period. So and there's a numerical scale to that, where if it's 5.5 or less, you're normal. If it's over 5.6, to maybe 7.5, there's certain ranges, and then anything over 7.5 on up, that means that you are definitely dealing with substantial diabetes, and your blood sugars are much higher than normal. So you need to go get those numbers looked at, because if you're walking around smiling, eating, enjoying sports, doing your thing, and these numbers are out of whack, it's like a ticking time bomb internally, and over time, that's why it's called silent, because you're having damage done that you don't see, and and your body may not give you signs yet, but over time you'll start getting symptoms. And that's when, you want to even try to do it before then. But if you start getting symptoms from some of these things, you're getting headache, you get lightheaded. Sometimes some people, there's little triggers and little things that you can know there's something not right. I'm sleeping. I woke up and I was a little dizzy. I'm getting these slight headaches sometime, and I've been taking. I seem to rely on analgesics. Either Tylenol, Motrin, or something, some painkiller. I'm just taking it every day because that's not normal. Get that stuff looked at.
Thank you. All right. So next, what role do emotional regulation and stress management play in preventing vascular damage?
Protection is critically important because, as I said before, you have to mitigate these causes. We know what the effects are. We just talked about that a little bit, but you have to mitigate and you have to reduce your exposure to a lot of these triggers. And if we don't do that, there's a term that we used to use. I know that many of the neurologists use it. They say time is brain, but in a sense of even with the body, the longer you're exposed to something bad, the higher the probability something bad is going to happen. And so try to reduce your exposure. And if you reduce your exposure, then the chances of it happening, it goes down. If that makes sense. But the fact of the matter is that you have to, stress management is critically important. Because you have to control your anger. All that increases your blood pressure. Chronic tension. Unmanaged distress can impair blood vessel function. All these things are impacted. And so you have to, anger management. Like I said, go on a walk. If you feel upset, instead of flooding off on somebody, just leave and just walk it off for a little bit until you kind of calm down a little, calm down. But you have to try things that will keep you from being in an excitable state, because all that has, various, effects on your system, and you can continue that for long term. You definitely are asking for trouble down the road.
All right, thank you. I know for me, one of those things or outlets would be exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's one of the things that I enjoy doing. As a matter of fact, that I learned. I didn't notice it at first, but then I learned as I kept doing it how much tension and stress, was being relieved. And because I didn't have such a buildup of stress and anxiety, then my responses to people and situations were different.
Right.
So, yeah.
Nice. And it helps you sleep. One of the things we said is important, but just a simple walk, will shift your sleep patterns and allow you to sleep sounder. And the sounder you sleep, the better your body is able to bounce back and recuperate and heal. And so, all these things are so interrelated and comprehensive. I think that's kind of the biggest challenge for us as African Americans is sometimes we don't connect the dots. They present things in pieces, piecemeal. But when you're thinking about our health, particularly in the body, it's a holistic system. I give an example. Someone will say, well, I went to the doctor and they told me I was at risk for a heart attack. Well, if they say you're at risk for a heart attack, that means you're at risk for a stroke. And if you're at risk for a stroke, that means you're at risk for what they call peripheral arterial disease, which is basically blockages of the vessels below the waist, down into your feet. So your legs into your feet. So basically, it's the same process that causes the injury, but it's just in different locations. So some people have a stroke because of blockages in the brain, or there's two kinds of strokes, but the majority of it is caused by blockages. Some people have myocardial infarction, which is basically coronary artery disease and blockages there. And then of course peripheral arterial disease, which is a catastrophic complication to diabetes. Not just diabetes, but those with poor blood flow in their legs, but very common in diabetes, very poorly controlled diabetes, where they are losing limbs and feet. Many diabetes have amputations, and actually even that in and of itself is another cry. I call it a cry in the wilderness, because my last company I worked with, that was what my role. I was part of the device development program within their medical affairs department, and we were developing carotid stents, and we call peripheral stents. Basically, these are devices that they can put into the vessels to open them up and provide good blood flow. So if there's a blockage, you can get around the blockage, and then you can open these and have better blood flow, and that preserves the limbs, because basically what is all about blood flow. If your blood flow is poor, and that's anywhere, if it's in the brain and poor, risk of stroke. If it's in the heart and poor, risk of a heart attack or myocardial infarction. And then obviously if their lower legs is poor, that's risk for what they call peripheral arterial disease. And so it's the same thing. Blockages prevents oxygenated blood from getting to where it needs to be downstream the blockage, and that's where a lot of the problems occur. So just kind of be aware of all these things, and don't look at it in isolation. It's all from the head to the toe. Your vascular system carries vital blood all throughout your system.
Thank you. Great explanation. As you were talking, it just reminded me, and folks that are out there listening, like he said, from the beginning, these things are happening in people, beginning at ages as low as 20 years old and higher. As a matter of fact, when I had my heart attack, the doctors were, saying that they didn't understand why I had it, that I looked like, I'm in such great shape. So even when I was first diagnosed with diabetes, the doctors was like, well, I don't understand why you have it. You look like you're in they would tell me I had an athlete's body is what they would say. But little did I know, which I know now, that through having started to be a caregiver for my dad, I learned a lot of perhaps why I have certain things, because my dad has been diabetic.
Yeah.
Some other things as well. So, but as you were talking, and you were talking about the blood flow, that's what they had to do with me, was to put a stent in one of my arteries leading to the heart. So, of course, I didn't know that until after they told me, but that's what they had to do.
Right.
And I really want people of all ages, any ages, to pay attention to what we're talking about, because it can happen to anybody.
That's right.
And as we've already talked about, it's Black men in particular, people of color, are more susceptible to it. So
That's right.
the awareness is critical.
That's right.
Because if you find that when you are aware of certain, let's say, for instance, certain signs or symptoms that one might experience, then when you feel you hear that body cry, excuse me, cry out or send that message, you don't just look at, oh, it's just a headache,
Right.
because you know what the symptoms are. And that's how I was when I became diabetic. I didn't necessarily know I was diabetic, but because I knew the symptoms of being diabetic, I said, hey, these are diabetic symptoms. Let me go get checked.
Right.
And so I went, and then it was just confirmed. Now I can't say the same thing about the heart attack, because it was not something that I had ever felt, nothing that I had ever experienced. In fact, I was just going about my day as normal. And what I believe was going on was that I had a case of heartburn that just wouldn't go away. So I continued to do the things that I was doing. And I didn't realize that anything was serious until at the end of the day, when I attempted to go to sleep. When I laid down, that's when I experienced trouble breathing. So every time I would lay down, I couldn't, I would have difficulty breathing and have to get back up. Right. So that is when I realized, okay, something's not right. And fortunately for me, at the time when this happened, I was just trying to, push through, as you mentioned earlier, because I didn't expect that was what was going on. But fortunately, my family, excuse me, was around me at the time, and made a phone call to my sister, who is a nurse. And once she heard it, she just said she didn't care what I said to get him out of there to the hospital. And so that's what happened. But I say all that to say that people that are listening, people that will watch this episode, don't think that it cannot happen to you. Just be aware of what we're talking about. Be aware of the signs and symptoms. Try to be more aware of the things that you consume, the time that you spend, not exercising, not getting out walking. Just be aware of that, because it can be at any age. And we all know that as you get older, things seem to become, if you're out of routine, it can become very, very hard to do, to commit. So thank you for all of those comments. They were great. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to take a break. If you're out there, please don't go away. If you have a comment or question, like I said, we're going to drop the link in the chat. If you see it and you want to ask myself or Mr. Brezzell a question, click on that link. We'll bring you up on the platform, and we'll allow you to ask your question or make your statement about what you're getting from the show. In the meantime, we're going to be right back, and we're going to a commercial break. So stay tuned. Don't go away. Bold, urgent, and deeply human, cultural silence and wounded souls cracks open the quiet too many Black men carry. Mark Tuggle brings raw honesty and courageous storytelling from 30 voices, intergenerational, diverse, unfiltered, turning stigma into conversation and pain into possibility. Read it, listen to it, and join the movement to heal, connect, and change the narrative. Listen to the stories, break the silence, start the healing. Get your copy at Amazon.com. Duke Got Life is a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit and the enduring quest for justice. At just 20 years old, professional boxer Charles Duke Tanner had the world at his feet with an undefeated record of 19-0. However, faced with the harsh reality of providing for his family, Duke took a devastating detour into drug dealing, leading to his conviction for a nonviolent drug crime and sentence of 2 life terms. What followed was a grueling 16-year battle against a seemingly unbeatable justice system, culminating in a turn of fate when Duke was granted his clemency petition and set free. Now, Duke travels the country sharing his incredible journey of resilience and transformation. His story is not just about overcoming personal adversity, but also about igniting a movement for prison reform. With his relentless fight, he inspires others to never give up, no matter how daunting the odds. You can find your copy everywhere books are sold. All right, and we're back with our guest host, Mr. Mark Brezzell. We've been talking about the heart, we've been talking about the vascular system, and we're talking about both of our journeys with diabetes, and we hope that you are enjoying the show so far. Like I said, if you have a question for one of us, if you want to come on the platform and make a comment, go ahead and utilize the link in the chat and we'll bring you up, and then we will entertain your question or your comment. And so meanwhile, we're going to get right back into the questions for Mr. Brezzell. So Black men are diagnosed with diabetes at higher rates and often at younger ages, as we've been discussing. So what's driving this disparity beyond, oh, it disappeared, beyond just diet and exercise? Thank you.
I think, again, it's our cultural norms. I mean, like I said before, what we were saying earlier, you got to sweat it out. Just that mantra, that mindset. I think the biggest thing is weakness. I should say health or lack thereof is viewed as a weakness. And so many people are like, well, I'm not going to go out like that. I'm just going to keep pressing forward. I'm not going to, instead of this as an indicator that something is not right, we look at it as, well, my mantra is, I'm not laying off. I'm not going to take the time off. I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing, and I'm not going to even bother to get it checked out. It's not important, because I'm just pushing through, unless we're starting to have really, really severe symptoms where we have no choice but to, step away from whatever's going on. But there's just so much going on. I mean, you got to work. So you got work, long hours that you might be working, or whatever projects that you may have. It's just, I think for us, because of the disappropriate treatment sometimes that we're getting, I think that makes us, we always feel that we have to be better, stronger, faster. We have to do the extra. We have to be extra to do anything, and I think that puts a lot of stress on us. And it does come out in the numbers when you start looking at the various numbers, as you start evaluating why are younger people so subjected to so much, so many of these conditions at such a younger age. So it does make a difference. And when we're conditioned, again, that health is inconsequential, it's not important, not recognizing is the exact opposite. I tell people health is your greatest asset. Why do I say that? Because if your health is jeopardized, your dreams, your ambitions, your aspirations, all of that can be jeopardized, can be snuffed out, because you have poor health. Health is your indicator. Health is your, if you jeopardize, and if you don't take care of your health, all of the things that all of your goals and dreams that you have can be severely hampered, because you'll be so severely limited that there'll be really nothing you could do for yourself.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So how does diabetes quietly damage the heart and blood vessels long before symptoms show, and especially in Black men who are already under chronic stress?
The biggest issue is high blood sugar. Blood sugar is is a definitive marker, is a definitive aggregate, and it agitates and it causes the inner linings of the vessels. Basically, when you think of the cardiovascular system, I think of it as plumbing. You have pipes, and even within the vessels themselves, the vessels are very, very, very smooth to promote good flow. Whenever you're having that blood flow that's interrupted, we call it laminar flow. But whenever that blood flow is interrupted, that's where sometimes the body will see these little lesions as a result of little sores and that may start to develop in the inner linings of these vessels. Then the body will respond to that and say, okay, there's something going on here. And sometimes your immune system will start sending cells there to thinking it might become infectious. And this could be also a cause of inflammation and other things. But basically, it starts a chain reaction, and those little sores, now that it starts affecting the blood flow, and the blood flow will pool around there, and then that will continue to grow and grow and grow. And that's kind of the etiology, what we call intravenous plaque. Or where a lot of the vessels start to get a little harder, or internally inside the vessel, you start having these little sores and lesions that develop, where they will eventually grow. Sometimes the wall of the vessel itself will get weak, or it will continue to grow to a point where it forms a blockage, and that's where you start to see. And this happens over years. This is not something that happens right away. This is a very slow process. And that's why it's so important to watch your numbers, because if you don't know this is going on internally, you just will be exposed at the great reckoning, when basically either, it could, a part of it could break off of that sore, wherever that area could break off, and then travel down the vessel to narrow vessels. And if it goes far enough down to a small enough vessel where it blocks it, now you have the etiology again for some sort of heart attack or stroke, or somewhere where blood flow now has been jeopardized because something broke off. So all of these things are kind of, again, interconnected. So that's how diabetes can affect your heart and your blood vessels, because high blood sugar injures the blood vessels over time. And then that all of these other issues start to kind of compound, hypertension and all that.
All right, thank you. So next up is, what are the early signs of diabetes that Black men tend to ignore or normalize, and why do we miss them? I know you mentioned a little bit earlier, but it's anything that you may not have mentioned, help us out.
Well, the thing about it is, and the funny thing about particularly these symptoms is, everybody has a different manifestation or expressions. Everybody doesn't deal with the same type of symptoms. But the most common is obviously, you have increased thirst. You have frequent urination, which is more the latter manifestation. You have fatigue. You can have blurred vision. You can have unexplained weight loss, which is the big one. Increased hunger. And another thing that you can look out for is wound healing. Do you have sores? How do they take forever to heal? Are they really slow to do it? And also recurring infections, numbness, or tingling in your fingertips and that sort of thing. Or you're just not feeling off, just feeling just a little off. These are all signs to at least get looked at to make sure that nothing is going on. Because again, the longer you sit on symptoms, the more damage can occur. And so this is all an element of early warning. The earlier you know about it, the earlier you can, we can, intervention can be encompassed, and the better your outcomes are. You never want to wait until you're at the very last, the dire, point where, everything, you're having tissue loss, or you're having some major heart attack or some major stroke. But yeah, these are, some of the little things that manifest itself, particularly in diabetes. And it's interesting for me, like you, I diagnosed myself as well. I was pretty young. I was around 31 when I was diagnosed, and I diagnosed myself. I was still in the hospital, and I remember it was kind of interesting that I was having, I was actually asked to do put together a protocol with, working with our anesthesia team. We were putting together things for diabetics undergoing heart surgery. And the very next year, I got married. Within 3 or 4 months of my marriage, I started exhibiting these very things. I started losing weight. I started having an insatiable appetite for sugary drinks. I would drink I love drinking soda pop. I'll drink that stuff like by the liters. And it just kind of went from there. I would get fatigued, and even my eyesight was impacted. So yes, indeed, these are the things that we have to look out for. And if you have one or more of these, get yourself checked out. I'd rather go to the doctor and them tell me there's nothing wrong with you than for them to tell me I wish you'd come here 3, 6 months ago or a year ago. We could do more for you then.
Exactly. And you want to have some type of idea of what's going on with you, because in our community, sometimes we get misdiagnosed because the doctors who don't look like us don't tend to really take us seriously. So it's good for you to be able to advocate for yourself when you go to the hospital or to the clinic or wherever you're receiving your treatment. All right. So what are the early signs of diabetes that Black men tend to ignore or normalize, and why do we miss them? I think we did that one.
Yes,
did we do that?
Yeah. We just talked about that. Basically, those the general stuff, unexplained weight loss, fatigue, just your changes in your appetite, where you just some people you start eating more and not gain any weight, or vice versa. But these are all little things that again, your normal routine. And when things start happening that's not a part of your normal routine, that should raise your eyebrow, raise some flags. Something not right.
All right. So how does the cultural pressure to push through pain, fatigue, and stress put Black men at greater risk for diabetic complications?
Again, delay intervention. Again, when you are you basically delaying care, you see delaying observation, you delaying intervention. All of these things hurt us in the long run, because the sooner the better. When you're talking about vascular issues, it all really comes down to the sooner you know what's going on, the sooner you can do something about it and rectify the situation and mitigate it. And when you start kicking things down, kicking the can, the problem is the can doesn't go away. It's just further down the road. And when you finally get there, you could have, had, better intervention much sooner. And again, as I said before, time is muscle. They used to say that for heart attacks, where time is muscle, where the heart muscle can be damaged if you're having a blockage, if you're having a heart attack. The sooner you reverse that, the better the outcome will be. And it's the same thing with us. Even with diabetes, the sooner you know what's going on, the sooner you can start to put steps in place to mitigate it and prevent any long-term complications.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
If a Black man wants to reduce, his risk, his diabetes risk starting today, what are the top 3 changes that offer the biggest return on investment?
I think the first thing is, and I think I'm not going to say I would say change your diet, but that's not easy. So most people want to say, I don't want, but for me, I'll flip it. I start off with walking. I would say increase your physical exercise, because that really, again, like I said before, that really does wonders, because now you're able to increase your cardiovascular system, your blood flow, and the more you do that, more is able to flush away any buildups any buildups that's going on. So you just want to do what you can. So start off walking. I would say start drinking more water. Another problem we have as a people is we're too dehydrated. We don't drink enough. We rely on other types of liquids. Water is your best diet. Water is your best. If you're thirsty, just drink some water. We drink teas, we drink coffees, we drink, like I said, sports drinks. We take, we drink everything else, but we're 70% water. That's what makes us tick. And we need water for our bodies to function properly, and for, and all these things. And then the last thing I would say is sleep. Try to improve your sleep, because if you're only hurting yourself down the road if your body is not getting enough rest, because it's a compounding effect. The more lack of sleep you get, the more your body is damaged. The more your body is damaged, the more susceptible you are to disease and other complications. And it's a cycle. And so you want to try to drop that thing. Try to so your diet, exercise, those are things you can do. Go for a walk. If you never walked before, start walking 15 minutes, 10 minutes. You don't have to turn it to a track star. Just get out there, just walk. Just do a little bit and just build on that. If you have to start somewhere, I think that's the easiest form of exercise, is walking. Then watching what you eat. Try to cut back on all the processed stuff. If it's ready made, it's probably processed. So you want to try to cut back on that stuff. I think that's a big problem in our community, because that's the way it's structurally set up. They put all these fast food restaurants in every neighborhood. You don't find that out in the suburbs. Not that the level of concentration. That's just a part of us, but it's a part of us that's hurting us, and it's killing us slow. It's killing us slowly. So try to be, cut back on fast food, McDonald's and Burger King and all that stuff. That's that processed stuff. That is one of the biggest cause of chronic inflammation, and you want to try to mitigate that to the best of your ability. So just eat whole foods is what to replace. I'd rather eat an apple than apple pie. I mean, the apple pie is good, but the apple.
You went to the pie. You went to the pie. All right. Well, just to reiterate what you said. I mean, years ago, when I lost 35, I was at 20. I was either at 205 or 215.
Mm-hmm.
I lost 35 pounds, and I did that by changing my diet. Number one, but number two, it was through exercise. I did a lot of exercising. I did a lot of walking, and I did a lot of running. So
nice.
I know that is what helped me. Just making sure, and you'd be surprised at how how much calories or how much weight.
Yes.
Some of like if you were to eat 5 M&Ms, literally sometimes I would eat a couple of M&Ms and then get on, and then later found out that couple of M&Ms added 1 or 2 pounds to my weight. So it's really good for you to know what you're taking in and what it does to your body, and how it affects your ability to keep your weight down, and to maintain a good healthy appetite, if you will.
As you're talking, I'm just saying, as you're talking, I'm just thinking, particularly since we are, for African Americans, our Southern diets, that soul food diet, as good as it is, it's not necessarily all that good for you. When you're talking about the extra consumption of fat, oil, again, all this stuff, and then highly processed meats, hot dogs and salami and I'm trying to think of all some of the deli meats and stuff. That stuff is, it creates a great deal. Your body has a hard time breaking it down, and then not only that, it generates greater inflammation in your system, which again, makes you more susceptible to various types of diseases and conditions, and even vascular challenges. So I mean, as good as it is, it's not that good for you. And I think we need to talk a little bit more about that. I think I was talking to somebody just the other day. I did a talk at a health fair, and I was telling them, for us as African Americans, people are still eating chitlins, and I'm thinking, there's an oxymoron for that. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to go and clean them. Well, you can't. You're not going to clean no chitlins. That's like, I tell people all the time, the chitlins are intestines. The intestines are designed for absorption. So basically, it's like taking a sponge, dipping it in muddy water, and then taking that same sponge and cleaning it to how it was when you first bought it perfectly. It ain't gonna happen. And that's what you're eating. So it's all toxic, and that builds up in our systems. We have to be aware of what we're doing to ourselves. And I know we love to eat it, but we have to ask the question, is it really good for me? Do you just want to enjoy what you eat? Or are you about health and vitality and trying to live a little longer life and trying not to subject yourself to the healthcare delivery system, which we know is flawed, by eating all of these foods that's going to make us sick. And now we got to go to the doctors for medicines, which costs a lot of money. Everything is more expensive. But if self-care is the best way to mitigate dealing with this healthcare system.
All right, great stuff. Thank you for everything.
Yes,
those are all of our questions. What we have now is what we call a lightning round. So that those are very quick one-word responses or very quick responses. So basically everything that every question that comes up or statement that comes up after this, you will respond by saying healthy or unhealthy.
Okay.
All right. So it's a flash lightning round. And then after that, we have our legacy question, and then we will close out the show.
All right.
So here we go. Healthy or unhealthy?
Mm-hmm.
Ignoring chest tightness because you're too busy.
Unhealthy.
Sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night and calling it discipline.
Unhealthy.
Carrying stress in silence.
Unhealthy.
Annual checkups only when something feels wrong.
Unhealthy.
Using food as stress relief.
Unhealthy.
Working through burnout because the family needs me.
Unhealthy.
Walking 20 minutes a day.
Healthy.
Having one trusted person you can be emotionally honest with.
Healthy.
Skipping medication because you feel fine.
Unhealthy.
Laughing, community, and joy as part of your health plan.
Healthy.
All right, so that was the legacy round, and we have one more question for you. This is our legacy question, and it is, Mr. Brezzell, when Black men hear your message years from now, what do you hope they say changed in their lives and in their families because of the truth you shared today?
I hope that they took this thing seriously and recognized that their health is their greatest asset, and for them to be, the best, productivity is availability. And if I'm available to be with my family because I was able to adopt some better health practices that will allow me now to see my children grow up, to see, walk my daughter down the aisle, to attend my children's graduations, then I think that was something that I can definitely treasure for the rest of my life.
All right, thank you. And as I mentioned earlier, if you can see, let's see. There we go. I think you can see it. Matter of the Heart. This is a book by Mr. Brezzell. It's my unexpected journey with diabetes. You can get it at his website, www.mdbliveconnext.
CONNEXT. Yep.
Yeah. CONNEXT.com.
Yep.
And I just want you to take a brief moment to talk about the inspiration for your book, and what readers can get, should expect to get when they read your book.
Sure. The inspiration of the book came from a conversation with a friend of mine. Actually, he's a former classmate of mine from high school. And I bumped into him at an outing. And basically, he pulled me aside and told me his testimony that he had been in the hospital for almost 3 weeks. He almost died. He said his kidney function was only like 27%. And he said, I didn't think I was going to make it. And I found out in the hospital that I was a type 2 diabetic, and and he recovered. He still has some setbacks, but he's doing much better now. And that was a point where I decided, you know what? I have spent 10 years in the hospital. I spent 20 plus years in industry. I am a type 1 diabetic personally. I have lived experience. This is not just data. This is experience. Now it's time for me to really educate, because he says something that's so common. So many people don't know that they're even diabetic or even at risk for that. So that was the inspiration for my book. And then two, when I looked around and looked at some of the other diabetic books, they only talked about the condition. I know what diabetes is from the standpoint of, I know it's a high blood sugar, but they don't talk about the psychological component of diabetes, of the fact that, you are dealing with a condition that requires constant managing. You are also have to educate caregivers and people in your sphere of influence, because if they see you now impact them, because if they see you acting, different, or you're more quiet where you're very talkative, or they can say, hey, is your sugar low, or just they can intervene and intercede on your stead. So it's not just about you. This is a condition that impacts everybody in your circle. So I try to help people understand that. So that was the reason why I wrote my book. I wanted to be real. I wanted to let people know that I wasn't happy when I was initially diagnosed. I was angry for years, and I want to let people know that this has an emotional toll as well as a physical toll, and just kind of make people more aware that it's not just simple, cut and dry. Oh, I'm a diabetic. You move on. That this encompasses a lot of other complexities that people should be aware of.
All right. Thanks again, Mr. Brezzell, for being on DrWhitty today.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, just let everybody know where they can find you outside of Dr. Today if they want to get a hold of you.
Again, my website, www.mdblive.connect.com. You can send me an email, but you can get all that information through my website. I'm on YouTube, various podcasts. I'm around. You can find me. But my website is really a good kind of a one-stop shop way of finding me. And it's even on my book, which is found on Amazon, Barnes and Noble's online. And there's an African-American publisher, or not publisher, but distributor, Brown Sugars and Spice is another way that you can get the book. And all that has my information on there.
All right, great. Thanks. And DrWhitty Today can be seen every other Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can witness the program on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and also LinkedIn. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers, if you heard nothing else today, make sure you hear this. Your heart is not invincible. Your stress is not harmless. Your silence is not strength. Mr. Brezzell reminded us that the weight we carry, the pressure to provide, to endure, to never break, it shows up in our arteries, our blood pressure, our sleep, and ultimately our lifespan. But here's the good news. We can change the story if we want to. We deserve to get rest. We also deserve joy, and we deserve a long and healthy, prosperous life. We deserve to see our children grow, our dreams unfold, and our legacies take shape. So today, make one great decision that protects your heart. Schedule that appointment. Make sure that you take that walk, get some exercise, release the stress. Make sure that you tell the truth about how you are feeling when somebody asks you. Even if they don't ask you, you say something. Choose life on purpose. Thank you, Mr. Brezzell, for all the wisdom. Thank you, family, for listening. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers, especially, for choosing yourselves. Until next time, take care of your heart. It's been taking care of you for a very, very long time. Good day from DrWhitty Today. Thank you for joining us on DrWhitty Today. We appreciate your time, and your viewership is the heartbeat of our show. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and most importantly, subscribe. Your support keeps us going, and we can't wait to have you back. So hit the notification bell to find out each time we air live. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, stay motivated, and stay tuned.